What up, my fellow NBA lovers? This is your guy Marcellus Ease, and just about a month left before the season starts, it seems like the Bucks have positioned themselves to make a nice pitch to Giannis, while saying that they sacrificed quite a number of draft picks to obtain Jrue Holiday, and they also made a signing trade to acquire Bogdan. Now, this is kind of 1 foot in, 1 foot out, because knowing that James Harden is in the market, the Bucks should have went all out and try to go after James Harden, which will put them over certain thresholds in the luxury tax tiers. I'm wondering if they were scared to step in that far deep into the situation. But I'm wondering, Giannis, before the season start, what decision will he make? Will he sign that extension right away, or will he still wait to the end of the season to make his decision? I thought I'd touch base on it and use this segment as a backdrop. You guys check it out, and every once in a while I'll check in.
Bucks are delivering back-to-back MVP Giannis Antetokounmpo. The upgraded roster they promise after another early playoff exit, agreeing to separate deals with the Pelicans for Jrue Holiday and the Kings for Bogdanovich. The moves that limit the Bucks' depth, but they do provide the type of playmaking around Giannis that the team hopes will tempt him to sign a supermax extension. So, Shannon.
Now, also looking at Jrue Holiday's contract, it's about $8 million more than Eric Bledsoe's, and it actually is for one less year. So after 2022, Jrue Holiday is free to walk. And once again, I'm wondering, how committed are the Bucks? Because Giannis is a once-in-a-generational talent. So knowing that James Harden once again was available, and other teams, even though they're pretty much dipping into that luxury tax, they were still willing to go after James Harden anyway. That's how committed they are to their players and to winning. So I wonder if Giannis is taking a look at these things and wondering, how committed are the Bucks?
How happy should Giannis be with this new help?
He should be elated. This is what he needs. Skip, I wanted Bogdanovich. Remember, I tell you, man, we get him. Kiss the baby on this one. He has Jrue Holiday, who can play make, who can defend at an elite level. He can shoot the three. Bogdanovich, they can space the floor. Okay, you want to load up in the lane? There you go, Bogdan. There you go, Holiday.
Now, it's hard to say that because of the timing of James Harden actually releasing that. Well, I don't want to say James Harden because he said it's cap, but there's heavy rumors that he wants to leave the team. Knowing this, the Bucks still pulled the trigger on a lesser talent, especially that where the space in the court where Giannis occupies is a lot different than where Harden occupies. And Harden pretty much would be the catalyst to help the Bucks get over the hill because he'll provide clutch shooting, especially in key situations, as he could create for himself, unlike Chris Middleton.
Skip, for me, sometimes in a relationship, and that's what the Giannis and the Milwaukee Bucks are. They're in a relationship. And sometimes you have to change in order to hope the partner stays. Now, there's no guarantee. You just know if you don't change, he or she's leaving. They're doing everything they possibly can to convince Giannis, you see what we did? Skip, did you see what they gave up to get Holiday?
Now, this situation, I'm kind of going to relate this to this scenario. Can you imagine if you're a multi-millionaire and you take your girl out to Applebee's, but you spend about $10,000 at Applebee's in a dinner? You're trying to make her feel like she had a luxury meal because you spent a lot of money. But at the same time, you just took her to Applebee's. It's kind of the same situation here. The Bucks, they got deep pockets in the ownership. James Harden was available, and they went after Jrue Holiday.
3 first rounders and 2 swaps. That's what the Lakers gave up to get AD. Now, I got no problem with what they gave up. You got to do it because this is what you know, Skip. If you don't do it, he's gone. If you look at the top, let's just say the top 10 players in the last 5 years, AD, he left. Bron left. KD left. Kawhi left. PG left. Harden's leaving. Russ leaving. Only the Greek freak has stayed. Steph Curry, Dame Lillard, Jokic, and Embiid. Those are your top players in the NBA, Skip. 7, 8 of them have left or are on the cusp of leaving. So you have to do everything, and this is why when you say superstars run the league, Skip, what NFL team you know doing this? Okay, bye. But you can't do that in basketball because he can impact the game on so many different levels on both ends of the court. So them doing this is showing Giannis, bro, we doing everything we possibly can. Please just sign on. I mean, I ain't never seen somebody have to beg you to sign a $250 million contract, Skip. They basically begging him. They've rearranged their roster. It's the same thing. And look, when you do this.
We understand the effort, but we're wondering if the effort was applied in the smartest direction. Especially, like, once again, James Harden was available, man. I mean, they went after kind of like the second best.
Skip, if he doesn't sign, you're screwed. And that's what James Harden and Russ situation is about to do to the Rockets. Because they gave up what they gave up to get him. Now, they're going to get something back for James Harden. But I don't care what you get back. You're not getting James Harden. That's a generational talent, Skip. Those guys don't come along often. So if I'm Giannis, okay, you showed me what you would. Okay, I can live with this.
You know, this situation reminds me of LeBron James when he's in Cleveland. They couldn't really get him the top level guys, so they got him Antawn, Jamison, Larry Hughes, and he was supposed to be kind of happy with that. But at the end of the day, we already know how that works out. Those are kind of the B- guys, and sometimes your stars, they need another star right next to them. And maybe the Bucks should have worked out a package to trade Chris Middleton to perhaps match their salary to get close to James Harden to get him over to Milwaukee.
So, for Giannis' sake, I hope you're right. I don't see it at all.
Oh, you don't like this, bro?
No.
Oh, they're coming out the East.
I'll give you maybe a little bit better, but no more than a little bit better, because New Orleans, David Griffin, they just committed highway robbery in this deal.
I'm sorry. That's an AD deal.
Okay, but they got back Eric Bledsoe. I like Eric Bledsoe. I'm not saying I love him.
Right.
But right now, Eric Bledsoe and Jrue Holiday, it's kind of like 50-50.
No.
It is kind of like 50-50. There's not that much of a difference between Jrue Holiday and Eric Bledsoe. There's not that much of a difference. It's a very thin line between those two guys. They're not really getting your teams over the hump, but they could give you some good regular season play.
No.
Okay, wait a second. Jrue Holiday has made 2 all-defensive teams.
Yeah.
So has Eric Bledsoe.
Yeah.
And Jrue Holiday might be a nicer guy because he's a really good sort of teammate leader type. Okay, maybe that'll help. Maybe a little better, but I can't forget that night. Remember, it was 2 years ago on a Friday night that Milwaukee played here, and Eric Bledsoe got his big new deal and just took the game over, and they just shredded the Lakers. Do you remember that Friday night game? He was the star of the game, and afterwards they interviewed him.
And after that, 2 straight years of the playoffs, the series against Toronto, where he played like shit, and then the series against Miami, once again, in this past season in the bubble, he played like shit in the playoffs. That's strike 1 for Milwaukee. This potentially right here could be strike 2. They basically traded 2 players that are almost similar, but they gave up 3 draft picks for 1 guy. That's the only difference here. But both of these players, they're very similar, especially their outcomes on their team's success.
So great to get my money. I feel like I earned it, blah, blah, blah. How much better can you make Giannis than best record in basketball the last 2 years, and they were the best defensive team each of the last 2 years? I'm talking about in the whole league. They led the NBA in defensive efficiency twice in a row. Okay? So the only way you can really get Giannis the help he needs is you have to get him an equal. You have to get him a co-star.
Yes, and that was a mistake they made in Cleveland. They didn't get LeBron. You can't get LeBron an equal, but you could get him something close to it. But they got him a Larry Hughes, who had a great season a year before where he averaged 20 points a game for the Wizards. But when it came down to play at least halfway decent in crunch time for the Cavs, he didn't even come nowhere near. And same thing for Antawn Jamison. They were nowhere near that player that they were before they got there.
You have to go get him Anthony Davis, and they don't grow on Southern California trees, on palm trees, right?
Right.
Okay, so to me, this is hard on me because I'm not a fan of Giannis. I've never loved him because he is supremely talented without supreme self-confidence.
Right.
Every time it's push comes to shove in the playoffs, he just shrinks.
Well, Skip, because because in the playoff, Skip, okay, I got you for 2 weeks.
It's still early for Giannis. It's pretty much a narrative. I mean, you could say the same thing about Dirk Nowitzki, but he's legendary. That's a legendary player right there. And Giannis is kind of going through the same trials and tribulations. Same thing that LeBron went through. They're all going through the trials and tribulations before they get to the promised land. It helps them build that chink in their armor.
I don't got to worry about playing you and then going to Portland and going to L.A. or going to Brooklyn. I got you for 2 weeks. That's what I know. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to build a fort, and I'm not going to let you enter. And if your guys can't make shots, well, Bogdanovich can make shots.
Okay.
Holiday can make shots.
Or if Giannis can't make a 10-foot jump shot, we got you.
Right. Correct.
Okay. And Giannis cannot make free throws. He makes them a little better in the regular season, but come playoff time, the last 2 years, he's terrible. He's around 50-some percent.
Right.
It's not good enough to be a superstar. And if you look at the numbers, so best regular in basketball, then they lost to the Raptors in 6 in the conference finals. And in the fourth quarter and overtime of those games, he was a minus 29. And if you look at his shooting numbers, they're just pathetic.
Well, you have to look at what he was asked to do in those series and in those key moments. Eric Bledsoe, he fell off the rails so bad that Giannis would have to create for himself the same way Kawhi had to create for himself in that Game 7 against Denver. Kawhi and Paul George just all of a sudden had to ISO and start creating offense. They're not point guards. That's not their duty. Where was Eric Bledsoe in these situations? He was the one that's supposed to be initiating and creating the offense.
He just shrank and shriveled up and became a nobody. Yeah. He was useless to them. And then last year they lost to the Heat in 5. He didn't play the last game. You remember he got banged up. But if you look at the 3 fourth quarters he did play, he was a minus 30. He wasn't very good. He shot 21% from 3 in that series.
I'm pretty sure you could look at Eric Bledsoe's numbers and you'll see a correlation with that.
He can't measure up to his MVP regular seasons with any sort of MVP impact in the postseason. Well, this is my gut level advice to him. I would play your deal out. He's got 1 more year. And hit the market and join forces with somebody. Go somewhere where...
I agree. I think he should just play it out to see what happens, how these new guys perform in Bogdan, and of course Jrue Holiday. But be very mindful because these guys, man, they're second-tier players, man. They're not nothing that's going to get you over the hump.
Bringing it to him, Skip. I mean, he said he didn't want to join. Look, a lot of people have said
you buying? Because I'm not buying what he's selling.
Skip, look, it's not from lack of trying, Skip. Now, he said he wanted to see a commitment. Skip, if I buy you a ring, am I not committed?
Depends where you got it from, Shannon. You should know that. Lady's going to check where you got the ring from. If you go to the little freaking bootleg spot and you got the ring from there, how committed really are you?
I'm doing everything you're asking me to do. I'm not hanging out with my homeboys. I cleaned up my act. I'm helping around the house.
Yeah.
I mean, they've done everything you've asked them. They got him Holiday. They got him Bogdanovich. They got him another shoot. They got him 2 shooters, a guy that can defend. I don't know what else he wants him to do.
Okay, I hear you about Bogdanovich. Every time I watch Sacramento, he just comes in, and he's not a starter, but he will just
light it up.
And he is absolutely fearless, without conscience. He will fire from anywhere at any moment.
Remember, he hit that big 3. He beat the Lakers at the buzzer.
I got it.
The question is, are they going to rely on him to get them to the promised land? See, to sell that to Giannis, that's the crazy part. Ownership has to look him in the face and be like, we got Bogdan. Like, can you imagine trying to keep a mega superstar of yours and tell them that, yo, we got Bogdan for you? Especially when guys like Harden was on the market.
And I give you that. But Dante DiVincenzo is a really nice young player. He's only 23. He's only played 2 years. He will become a more impactful all-around player than Bogdanovich will be.
We'll see about that. It's funny because they did lose Mirotic. He ended up going to Europe, I believe, after the season, after they lost it to the Raptors. That was a mega blow for them. And that was very unfortunate because they made a hell of a trade with the Pelicans to get him on that squad.
So I think Sacramento will ultimately get the better of this deal. And I'm going to remind you, I'm not the biggest fan of George Hill from his days in San Antonio, and he actually got traded for, if you can believe it, for Kawhi Leonard. But the point is, even though he was more of a sixth man, he led the NBA in three-point shooting last year with 46%. I know it's a smaller scale, but he qualified. So, again, wasn't he a good enough? I know Bledsoe's not a great shooter, but he's a scorer. And
he's a scorer until the playoffs hit.
Be a factor and a force. So, really, did they get that much better than they were? I don't think so.
I believe they are, Skip, because here's the thing.
Now, I'm wondering if Skip is talking about Hill's shooting in regards to the playoffs or the regular season at that 40% mark. I'm not too sure because if he was shooting it lights out like that, the Bucks would have put more of a fight against Miami, especially against Toronto too in the year before.
Holiday is a better shooter than Bledsoe. Bogdanovich is a better shooter. But I don't care what anybody says. He's a better shooter than George Hill. He's a more consistent shooter than George Hill. Now, he gets up 7 threes a game. Skip, they need the floor spaced.
It's hard to tell, man, because he played for Sacramento. See, a lot of these guys, when they play for shitty teams and put up numbers, it's really hard to tell until they come and play with a good team, go deep into the playoffs against teams that are more consistent, especially defensively. And that's when you can really measure how good these guys are.
Because if you look at LeBron, look at what LeBron loves shooters around him. So if you clog the lane, I'm gonna kick. Now Giannis is not the passer that LeBron is. He gets in trouble a lot. He draws a lot of charges. A lot of his fouls are charged because he's running over people. He hasn't figured that aspect of the game yet. But Skip, with these spacers on the floor, now you can't just clog the lane. It should be easier and better for him. Now, if he can't get to the finals, the Nets loading up too.
Yep.
Losing to the Nets won't be but losing to Toronto, and losing to the Heat will be.
Now, losing to the Nets will be an issue. This guy is on contract. Yeah, it's going to be an issue for him.
Unacceptable.
I would agree. Okay, I'm going to remind you on Jrue Holiday, he's now 30 years of age. And you say, did you add a star? Well, he made one all-star team, but it was forever ago because he's played 11 seasons. It was way back in 2013 in Philly that he made one.
You ain't waking up.
Once again, this is coming down to comparisons with LeBron James getting Larry Hughes. It's looking like the same setup right here.
Now, you know you ain't making no all-star team coming out the West at the guard position with Russ, Harden, Steph, Dame.
Okay, but what I'm saying is, did they add another star? No, they did not.
I think he's a star, not a superstar. You want Giannis paired with
I don't. I think
he's not even a star, man. The Pelicans struggled to make the playoffs. They only made the playoffs like once with him, and that's the time when they went on and they bust Damian Lillard's ass, sweeping the Blazers. That was pretty much the high point for that team.
he needs it.
Oh, okay.
And I think deep down he knows he wants it. And I think deep down these are just sort of moving it's like a shell game. Like, well, we made this move and that move. You're making moves to make moves, and you gave away a bunch of future because you gave away a bunch of picks.
Because they're going to be late. They're saying, look, if we're what we think we are, they're going to be in the high 20s or 30s, so we don't care. You're not getting anybody with those type of draft picks. I mean, Giannis, Middleton, Holiday, Lopez, Bogdanovich. You got three guys that can shoot the ball, can spread the floor, and Giannis can have his layup line to a conga line.
But Shannon, they're actually betting on this for this current season so they can leverage themselves to keep Giannis. See, that's the thing Skip is pretty much questioning. Basically, why would you assemble this portfolio for this current moment so when things come to shove and during the summer and you're trying to re-sign Giannis, you have to go by with what you have at the moment. And it doesn't really look that crazy.
Because you know what happened. Remember the Mavericks had that conga line on y'all? The Clippers? They should have won. If Porzingis hadn't got hurt, you'd have been out in the first round. But that's neither here nor there. Nuggets took care of y'all. Skip. I like this lineup. I like it. I like it more than you do.
It all comes down to how great is Giannis. And if he's that great, they'll get to the finals. And if he's not...
Well, hold on.
Skip is right on that. It's really going to come down to Giannis. These guys are just B-, C-level guys. It's nothing spectacular. I'm talking about when it comes to the playoffs, not the regular season. When push comes to shove, they can't go like, oh, we got to rely on Bogdan to hit shots. We got to rely on Jrue Holiday. I don't think the championship teams are really thinking about that. They're going to rely on guys like Kawhi, Paul George, LeBron, Anthony Davis, James Harden, Kyrie Irving, Kevin Durant. I mean, look at these guys. These guys are like the key guys you want to have when it comes down to crunch time.
To get to the finals over Brooklyn, what does that say about your guy?
Which guy?
Whichever one you want to claim.
You mean the best player on the planet, Kevin Durant?
He can't be if he can't get to the finals with that firepower he got.
There is no way that this Milwaukee team, even upgraded, quote unquote, will get past the Brooklyn Nets with or without James Harden.
We'll see. I mean, it depends. If Kevin Durant comes back, he doesn't look the same. We don't know how that injury has affected him. We got to see how he can carry that load.
With or without.
Are you sure about
As is the Nets right now. I'm picking them. I still think they're much better than this team. And obviously, I trust the best player on the planet and a Kyrie who made the shot of shots to win a ring for LeBron, his only ring in Cleveland. I will trust those two over this one. It's 2-1 in superstar.
First of all, the guy that's the best player on the planet, I think he's in Mykonos. He's celebrating, he and his mom. I saw them, they're having a good time. So you don't need to reference
Well, he's
him.
celebrating a lot.
Daddy, why shouldn't he? You the king.
I hope what happened in Vegas stayed there.
No, Skip, no, don't do that. Don't do it. Why can't we
He
celebrate?
might have aged 2 years in one off season.
Hold on.
And it's a short off
We
season.
about to talk about a guy that celebrated, won a game and drove around the stadium.
Good. Let's talk about him. Love him.
Confidence.
They always trolling each other about LeBron James. But it is what it is, man. We'll see if Giannis, if he bites, because I highly doubt it. I mean, they're really testing this guy's loyalty right here. But once again, in the marketplace, there was a lot available, especially when you got a mega player in James Harden, who pretty much is exactly what the Bucks need. They should have definitely tried to leverage Chris Middleton's contract, other key pieces, and send all them draft picks to Houston. At least make that attempt so Giannis could see. But they're just kind of giving him the B- treatment right here. And then they're going to approach him at the end of the season talking about, we gave up our future just to get you. But they didn't really give up anything. They just give up a bunch of what ifs. You know, Giannis is going to be looking at, you know, how much salary did you guys really want to take in? It is what it is. We'll see where this gets at. Until next time, you guys stay safe. Peace.